What I have in this video is love thy neighbor. Okay? What happens when you don't love your neighbor? Well, there's going to be conflict. So there's going to be some type of conflict. And an event will occur out of this. So it's a conflict. It's also an event. It's a timeline event. Documented in the timeline as an event occurred with some type of conflict. When you're supposed to love thy neighbor, that means everybody. Neighbor is everybody. Everybody is your neighbor. Because you're an individual character, everyone you cross paths with is your neighbor. But most of all, you want to get along with the neighbors around you. Because you got to live there for the rest of your life, or potentially a partial time of your life. That before the move happens, if you were not to love your neighbors around you, they would begin to talk. And this is when the backstabbers come out and play. So it's always best to communicate with the neighbors. And at least if it's just saying, hi, how are you? And just getting that basis to the basic communication skills that is needed on this earth is that everyone is supposed to come together as one. Okay, so passing down knowledge to your neighbor would help under the truth. Okay, passing down important info. Important information, because if it's important, it's most likely going to be the truth. We don't see why they would lie when it's important information. Now, if the character lies, then it doesn't love its neighbor. Okay, because lying to your neighbor will cause a conflict. Okay, a timeline event. Loving thy neighbor looks like lending a hand, giving them a helping hand. Okay? If they're in trouble, they need your help. Don't expect a return of favor, though. And that's where you guys are wrong at. Because you're always expecting something back when you help a neighbor. And it doesn't always work out that way. So never expect nothing to be returned to you, because you're the sender. You're sending them a gift, so you would receive another gift from another character, another part of this life. Okay, so it's passing down important information, which will build the knowledge, the tree of knowledge. Okay? Loving thy neighbor is building the tree of knowledge. You want to start with the foundation, build it nice and strong. You'll need money. Even though the money is the root of all evil, it's not what made the money evil is the people turned the money to evil. Okay, and it became blood money. So it's the building blocks. Okay, once you got the important information, now you can build on the information, and it shouldn't block you from receiving this money. I've helped many people build their channels and make them grow bigger. I believe so. That's what I believe. I believe I passed down important information. It helped them build from where they were at on the understanding, and it was a tool. But this one we called it building blocks, okay? Because we're going to talk about the foundation. It has to be strong, so you have to put most of your money in the foundation, okay? The digging and the removal of the dirt, transporting and hauling it off, and laying the foundation finally to begin the house. And it has to be a solid foundation which can handle earthquakes, mud, and even floods. You don't want your house, as soon as it gets hit by water, to just decides to just break away from the house, the foundation. So we're all actors. So loving thy neighbor is easy. All you have to do is act. Alright, so we are all actors and actresses in this live movie. Okay, it's a live movie, and there's a beginning and there's an end. Everybody understands when you're watching a movie that no movie's ever had a continuous cycle of playing time. It just doesn't play forever. There's always going to be a beginning and an end. Since we're all actors and actresses in this movie, beginning and the end, to a story. Okay, it's a story that's been told about humanity and what it was like on Earth. So somebody's documenting this. Okay, so God is documenting a series of man on Earth. That's what it would be called. And He's documenting you since the beginning of time. And He's still documenting you today. He will not finalize the documentations until man leaves the earth and goes to the new heaven, new earth. Then that story will be set in place and it will be put as a book to be accessed. Okay, and that'll be man's life throughout the earth. And just as we record it and do documentaries, God is doing a documentary on man. And it's just to show the different scenarios of different characters that can come out of all of the evil tree and out of the good tree. And how many different ways to play out throughout the world. Okay, and He's given you an estimated, He's categorized it, graded it, and selected people out of it to be the elect few that speak for God. That's what the elect are. The elect are people that speak as mediators for God. God is in the heavens, we are on the earth, we speak for God through the Holy Spirit, and the Spirit speaks through us, allowing us to pass the information down to the characters on the other side watching. It is without the Holy Spirit, none of us could do what we're doing. So it is the Holy Spirit. It's always been the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit stands for clean, truthful, light, the embodiment of light, disciplined, sober-minded, lover. He's loving, passionate, charitable. And you can just go on and on about how good the Holy Spirit is. It is man who is, on the other hand, not so good on the right side of life. Man has decided to be its own God, its own creator. But what it's creating is destructive to the nature of everything that's in creation. So it's not really all that oppressive when you go back and you look at things and what they were creating and designing and then releasing into the public to use in whatever means the public had to use that product for, or that tool, or that type of some type of special equipment. Whatever it was, we have walked away from teaching our kids how to love their friends and neighbors. Okay? And this is deeply rooted as one of the most important ones. Because love is key. And when you share love with your neighbor, it'll return back to you doublefold. You get 2 times the amount of reward for every time you help to knit your neighbor. You're rewarded twice as much. I'll give you twice as much back when the time is right, so that you're not just expecting, but you should be expecting it, but at a later date. Why? So that you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. It'll be like, oh, you'll know that it was God because no one else knew about the timing. That you helped somebody, that returned the favor, or somebody else eventually returned the favor by paying for your dinner one night. You go out to eat, and somebody pays for your dinner. For you and your family that were sitting there. It was like a $150 ticket, and somebody paid it. You didn't even know. It was just somebody at their table was saying, hey, I'll pay for them as well. And they paid for you. So that's how it returned to you. It returned to you in a different format, but it was still returned to you on a night you needed it the most. Maybe you were running low and you needed gas money for the rest of the week to go to work, but your wife wanted to go out to eat and you didn't want to really argue with her. So you kept the peace and you did what you were supposed to do, and you were going to survive the way you were going to survive for the rest of that week with the little bit of money you had left. When you love your neighbor, everyone succeeds. That's the first thing you want to understand. Everybody will succeed because nobody's going to really be in that fear mindset. So beware of the fear mindset, because it even gets me. And that's the worst mindset, is a fearful mindset. Yeah. I know I'm not the most interesting channel. But I was trying to help you help your kids. So I was trying to teach you something that maybe would work for your kids, you know what I'm saying? By teaching them to be aware of a fearful mindset. But don't have fear, but to be good within the mindset of fear, not having fear. that's where you begin to grow the seed of life. Because what you speak into your life will plant, grow, and flourish. Or it'll plant itself in a thicket of thorns within your mind. It'll be a thicket of thorns within your mind, and the tree dies, and then you have a dead tree within your mind. The more dead trees you plant within your mind, because every time you plant an evil seed, it becomes like you planting it in the soil of where there's thorn bushes at, and you're going to plant azaleas there. It's just going to choke the plant out if it can wrap its way around it. But since it's a thorn bush, it's already going to be in your azalea is already going to be in trouble unless you didn't space them out. But I'm saying it was growing in the wild, and he decided to just get it, take over. The thorn bush did, because that's how vines operate in the forest as well. Vines will climb up the trees, choke the tree to death, choking its oxygen, and then killing it. A vine. I'm trying to make it make sense to where it makes sense in your mind. So, okay, you can plant a good seed and an evil seed. Let me redo this. So you can plant a good seed, you got an evil seed here, and they're both going to be planted within the mind. Okay? One is pornography. The other one is, which is evil. The other one is helping an old lady at a grocery store get something off the top shelf. Okay? You're going to plant that good seed into your mind. What it does is also plant a good seed in her mind, because you showed her loyalty, honesty, and commitment to be committed to helping her get that item off the shelf, so that when she received it without fear that you were going to harm her or rob her for her money or do something in a unspeakable manner. But when you plant that evil seed, and the seed begins to grow within your mind, and you'll begin to watch that pornography, and it'll destroy you, destroy your relationships, destroy your social skills, it'll destroy your penis, you have dysfunctions, malfunctions with it. You don't have malfunctions, so let's not call it dysfunction. Dysfunctional, but it's a malfunction issue with the blood not pumping to the shaft properly. You can have a problem there. You can have the illusion that every girl you got to be with has to be a certain type, you know what I'm saying? Rather than you find the one that matches your spirit, you're searching for something that's lustful. It's going after the lust, the flesh. So, you have to be aware of which one you plant. Because if you plant the evil one, it'll eventually rot within your mind, and the tree will fall. It'll fall within your mind, and you become fallen in that category. And that's why you have to get to the understanding of it. Because if you can understand it, you'll just stop the tree from dying, and you'll start growing it. By growing it from the truth of it. That you know that it's a bad idea, and that you should not commit to that evil anymore. So that's like where the growth begins within the mind. That's why it's important that you plant seeds within your children's mind that are going to grow and flourish their brain and make them become alive and feel alive within the realm. Because more people are looking dead because they feel dead on the inside, because the seeds that they're planting in their mind are the dead seeds, and now it's killing the body, it's killing everything about them, and it turns them into a dead tree. Your whole body becomes the dead tree itself if you plant enough evil in you. You become a dead, rotten tree. And that's why you have to be aware of the fearful mindset. Because when you're in that fear mindset, the devil has all control over you. How do I know? Because I did the study on myself. So, I know when I'm in a fearful mindset, it's because I did something wrong, and it's against God, or it's affecting my conscience, and I'll feel sick to my stomach being in this fearful mindset if I did something against God. So every time that I'm always in this fearful mindset, it looks like I did something against God. And I can't bear the pain. It's a lot of bearing of the fruit that I put into my life that had altered the relationship with God. Because you can grow your seeds in your mind that are good, and the more you grow it and you plant it and water it and flourish it and make sure it blossoms properly, so that when the harvest season comes, you will harvest from all the good plants of seeds you planted within your mind to give your tree life, to give your body, your mind, and soul life. That it's that important. Loving thy neighbor comes by loving life. But not your life. Loving everyone else. Sharing the love. Loving life, but not yourself. Okay, so it's loving life and deny yourself. Those are the two right there. Denying yourself because you see how everybody else is suffering. You have the understanding to it. They may not come to that understanding yet. But by me showing love and life, denying myself, you'll begin to separate yourself from people who take the love of life out of you. Those are the people you really want to stay away from. The ones that take the love of life out of you. What makes you love life. But if it's under the evil seed and you planted an evil seed and that's what you love in your life, then you need to deny yourself that you're lying to yourself. You need to deny yourself and tell yourself you're lying and come to the correction that the only way to the truth is going back to loving life by finding people who love the truth and suffering with them. I've never found anyone that's been intelligent not suffer. I've never found not one. They all suffered. Some type of sociology, okay? And the reason why is it usually stems when you're in the younger ages too. Maybe like elementary school, middle school, and high school, you were bullied for being smart. But in the long run, is you plan that your future would look bright if you planted the right seeds within your mind. Because if you started planting all these evil seeds because they were doing evil to you, so now you're plotting an evil event out later down the road, you are going to be punished. Because no evil deed goes unseen in the realm of God. So that's why it's best, like, the way I do it is I just ignore it. I brush it off my shoulder, and I act like they never said anything to me. Unless they take it way too far out of the proportion of the conclusion of it all. I got no problems with them. They're just talking because something's going on in their life that has just made them revengeful. So then they pick a target and revenge their anger on them. And it doesn't mean they're always meaning to be that way towards you. You have to be aware of people seeking revenge. And a lot of people seek revenge, but you don't want to do it to your neighbor. Revenge. Okay? Revenge is like the last thing to a conflict. Okay? It's the last thing. It's the last thing to a conflict. Conflict will come up on the timeline event as there's an occurrence of energy occurring in this location. And it'll document the energy charge that came out of it. They want to find out what was the amount of energy that was used to finalize whatever the conflict may have been that you had with your neighbor. Let's say you shot him and killed him. That's a high-powered energy. It's a lot of energy that's been used. Not only for the victim that's going to be suffering from the gunshot wound, but it'll also have the attacker who will be suffering from great mental distress once he settles down off the adrenaline. The mind will begin to rush in his mind about all the evil he's doing. Because God will remind him. So he'll never be able to get away with his own actions because his own mind will remind him of the times he's done evil. So that's why it's important that you pay attention to passing down important information, which is truth, because if it's important, it must be the truth. And when you pass it down through your neighbor's able to share that story throughout his family and then pass it down through another neighbor. So it'll kind of go around, but will it still remain the same truth as it's being passed down? No. It'll start to dilute it. Somebody will dilute the truth and then add a lie to it. And this is where you get where the information's been passed down from the neighbor to too many people now, instead of going directly to the source. So you can hear it for yourself. So you have to be aware of passing down knowledge, because once it goes beyond the neighbor, then it starts to get watered down. And it becomes watered down information. So you have to build your blocks based on that the game we play in is required that we play with money. So it's the only way to play life into the game life. This is what's so valuable to teach your kids, is that money is the main player. Okay, it's the main playing point. Without the money, you can't play the game. Now you could, but your life is going to look like you living in the middle of the woods where the government won't bother you and neither will people. So you'd have to be somewhere far off in the middle of nowhere where you're not bound to electricity and stuff, because you won't be able to afford that type of bill because you don't have any money. But you could build your own hydro dam or something off of the water and run power like that if you were smart enough. It depends on your intelligence, on what kind of building blocks you're going to have when it comes to building with hands and feet. Building with your hands and feet. The feet to lift, the hands to cut and do the job. The rest is lifting and getting it to the actual destination of the location where you wanted to lay a foundation at. Within your mind. You want to lay a foundation within your mind before you plant that seed. We are all actors and actresses in this game. We all get paid to play the game. Now we get paid differently, and some of us even sell out to the evil. Okay? They sell out to the evil by planting evil seeds in their mind. They eventually switch sides. They went from light to darkness. And some people never got to experience darkness. So, some people switch in the end and go completely dark. Darth Vader. Why? Because they've never experienced it. Some people want to see what it's like in the end. Some people want to see what it's like. So if they want to test it out and see if it's exactly what people said it is, and then they fall apart and deteriorate and die. They go into decomposing stages. They don't realize people that come from it are all in decomposing stages. That's why you see them they're all dumbed down and stuff, because they're all decomposing. Ain't nobody feeding them nothing but garbage all day. You feed a character garbage long enough, you might have to take the character out to do the garbage. Okay? So make sure that whatever your beginning is, don't let it be your end to your story. Okay? We're all actors and actresses down here. We all have the beginning. We all started as infants. And somehow we're going to get to this end of our story point. And we got to make sure we're not in a lot of conflicts with our neighbors, which will be documented in the timeline event as a conflict happened with your neighbor. Passing this knowledge down was important information so that you don't hold on to what is not yours, which is nothing. Nothing is really yours. You're just borrowing it from the earth. You're borrowing, you're not taking it, you're borrowing it. Because when you die, it's been borrowed, now you got to pass it down and it goes to sorrow. Okay? So from borrow to sorrow, as quick as of a flip when you're dead. And these building blocks of teaching your kid how to spend this money and play with this money properly. And do not sell out for money, because then it leaves you as a target with a gun on your back, on your head. With a gun on your head, because anytime you sell out and you go against that contract that you're gonna break in the flesh, you could possibly get them to kill you. And then you're stuck running a loop the whole time. You can't get out of it. So you're just going to fall into it and accept it as you ain't getting out. So now you might as well become full evil, and you become the worst, evilest characters playing in Hollywood. Yep. All because you can't get out. So you decide to go all in. And that's because you got to beware of the fearful mindset. Okay? When they're fear-mongering you, and you're not aware of this fear-mongering, then the mindset will be stuck up under fearful. With inside the voice. Not you, maybe expression that you're externally feared, but internally you have fear. So beware of that money doesn't put you in a fearful mindset. Okay? Because money can put you in a fearful mindset or make you think This is it. It's over. Life sucks. And technically, you could make your life better by going out there in the woods, digging a hole, building your foundation, and then sleeping in your basement with the fire in the basement. You know what I'm saying? And then have the first floor for the summertime. But you have to build a solid home where rain and storms can pass through without blowing down your house or taking it out with a tree. That's why if you're going to live around a whole bunch of trees, you might want to live in the basement. Loving life and denying yourself. Denying yourself is a statement of, I don't have to do this today. I don't have to watch pornography today. That's denying yourself. Because you know what the flesh wants. It wants to watch it and be satisfied. But when you deny yourself, you are actually building yourself up through loving life. The reason why I started doing all of this, because I'm sick. I'm sick, man. I believe I'm dying. So, and I didn't want to be a person that was vengeful. So, revenge was the last thing on my mind. And I didn't want to be in a bunch of conflicts with people before I died. And I wanted to pass down important information. So I started this channel and I fired it up and I just kept going. Even though AI kept showing me algorithms of people saying stuff about me and being mean to me and stuff like that, I didn't pay attention to that because I was like, they never walked my shoes to even have anything to say. So they're just speaking off of what they've been given in their life, which was they've been given a golden ticket. I'm a guy from poverty that had no education, no father, came from molestation, had a drug problem starting at 7, got molested in foster care, was in foster care for like 3 years, was in Old Dominion for 6 months as a child. I was in a juvenile psychiatric facility for juveniles, and I was pissed off at the world. It wasn't going right for me. Nothing was going my way. I was seeing my mom do disgusting things in front of me. I was stabbing doors by a very young age. I was cussing everybody. I just really wasn't evil. I was suffering. And I wanted to express myself according to how they were treating me. So I almost killed them at one point. When I took the knives out, when I started stabbing doors and stuff, I wanted to kill them. I wanted to kill them at that time. And I was only very young. I'd probably been like 11 years old, caught a murder charge. Because I wanted it to stop. And it wouldn't stop. It just continued. And then eventually I ran into a situation in my life which cost me a lot. Incest is not a good thing, man. So the Bible speaks of it as being something that was a normal occurring event over the time of Noah and even to the time we are in today, which is 2026, which is 2026 years prior to the last great flood, which is when the earth had shifted and the water moved on the earth and came towards the land. That's why you see so many magnificent sights in the ocean and stuff in certain parts, because sometimes when the pole's in another position, that'll be out of the water. It'll be above sea level. It might have still been below sea level like New Orleans is, but it was a place where they built on top. And then when it became under sea level, is because everything goes under sea. So New Orleans will one day be underwater. We all know this to be true because it's under sea level now, which means that Florida will be underwater. It's the peninsula, and eventually break off. So Florida is looking like we're running into a situation where the land is going to crack off and split from the American soil. Could be when a great earthquake happens. Something that causes a shift in the pillar. Because I believe that's one of the pillars right there. Because the pillars run all throughout the whole United States and throughout in Canada. There's pillars all the way up. And the pillars are how it stabilizes the land so it doesn't just rock and move all over the place. It's got to be able to be stable so that you can dig, you can drive, you can build on it. You can build 100 floors, 200 floor skyscrapers, and it'll put so much weight in that one location, it still will not collapse. The earth won't, if you build it on a solid foundation. Now, if we built it on an unsolid foundation, which seemed to be just right when we built on top of it, but later we did a scan on the floor, and now it has a pocket of a collapsed pocket that we built on top of. What does this mean? It basically means that there's a pocket underneath the dirt where it's hollowed out, and it's not going to hold the weight forever. So it eventually fracture and collapse. So the last thing you want to do in your life is seek revenge. You never want to seek revenge on anyone just because there's no point. It's a loss. You know? To seek revenge on your neighbor, maybe your neighbor slept with your wife. There's no need. The last thing you need to do is create a conflict. You're going to pass down some important information, trust me. You're going to build some blocks and possibly even use the money to get him assassinated or killed. You're an actor who just can't handle its behavior based on the woman destroying your life. That's what you realize about picking a partner. Now let's talk about picking a partner now. In order to pick a partner, okay, you got a male and a female here, and they got 10 different people they both crush on. So they have 10 crushes apiece. They have 10 other people that they like, but they've decided to communicate between these two. When the communication is just lust communication, which there is no deep, intimate soul conversation occurring, what you're going to get out of it is eventually a conflict, where one conflict will pop up, the timeline event will begin, where that's your neighbor now, your girlfriend, your husband, your wife, they're all neighbors. Anything that's outside of your physical body is your neighbor. Anything that's outside of your physical body. So it's anyone that you come across in this realm. Your mother, father, those are all your neighbors. Take care of one another. When you do, it will pay off in the end. When you don't take care of nobody outside of yourself, and you become a lover of thyself, loving thy neighbor is thrown out the window, and then you become the opposite of loving thy neighbor. You become lovers of thyself. So that's very important to understand, is you do not want to be a lover of thyself, because you're contradicting yourself if you're saying you're a lover to your neighbors. Because how can a lover of themselves love their neighbor when their neighbor is important to them when they need something? That's why it's important to love your neighbor, because when you really, really need something and you're in desperate need, you're going to have a neighbor that'll come through for you. A friend, a neighbor, an acquaintance, a stranger. Some type of way that you still can correspond to dialogue, to being under the neighbor. When you need them, you call them in your phone. You say, look, I'm in a bind here. It's not looking good. I missed last month's rent due to some car accident I got into. My back was messed up. I couldn't go to work. I'm still waiting on my check to come in the mail. My reimbursement check for the insurance claim I put in. And that's where you're gonna find out whether the character is willing to be loyal to you and truthful and honest with you. Because if it loans you the money, it expects that money back. And once you break that trust, it's almost like loving thy neighbor is thrown out of the window and no one can trust anymore. And it only takes one person, and it's usually the family that does it. But every once in a while, you'll get a friend that does it as well, or a neighbor, where they'll loan a character money and the character will never pay it back, may not even contact them for the first 6 months, just trying to dodge them. So beware of how you're begin and the end of your story, because my beginning of my story was very terrible, leading to a very strange ending, because I'm barely hanging on, but I'm still in the fight. You understand? I didn't give up. I could have killed myself. I've been suicidal since 16. I've been on drugs since 7. I mean, I could have definitely took myself out. That's why I'm suffering health problems now. I got health problems because I've tried to kill myself too many times. And it's caught up to my organs inside of my body, and my organs sometimes they don't operate properly. I guess it's scary, man. It's scary. What I did to myself is scary, buddy. To go to sleep and lay down and lay your head down, it's sometimes scary too. Because my mind would tell me, look, you killed yourself. And that's what my mind keeps telling me right now. It's telling me I killed myself. And it's correct. I did. I killed myself because I allowed people in the game, neighbors that were evil, to destroy me. My evil neighbors. To the point where I was even hanging out with my evil neighbors and doing evil. So, everything that I put up here is because I've already studied it with myself. So all I'm just doing is giving you a simple rundown of a few things you should think about in your own life and come to your own understanding, as I have passed off my very short but brief understanding of of the breakdown of these building blocks, the passing down of the important information, the conflicts, understanding we're all actors and actresses, so we must play our script, our role, and if it requires me to die by somebody's hand, or if it's just natural causes, we'll figure that out down the road. The beginning and the end to the story, how did it look? When you go back and play it in your life. Beware of fearful mindsets. You don't want to be afraid. Even though the mind will put you in a fearful mindset, it will, depending on what you listen to or what you watch, or you have to be aware, you have to be cautious not to put on something that'll make it worse. Make your fears worse, your anxiety worse, your depression worse. So that's why you have to deny yourself and love yourself. Not love yourself, love life, which is different, okay?